3 times a year, I host a mastermind for some of the biggest names in the online business space. It's called the Bulletproof Boardroom, and our goal is to help online coaches get to 50 to 100K a month in take-home profit, then take that profit, turn it into actual wealth in the bank account so that one day coaching becomes optional. And our focus is peace of mind every day, wealth growing every single month, and what I'm about to share with you in this video is a business that runs itself. Over the last month or so, we've made a pretty interesting breakthrough on what I believe to be the next generation of online business models. And in this video, we're going to talk about generation 1 and 2 of online business and why they're pretty much going to be obsolete, at least in my opinion. And the third generation, which is the AI agent model, and how we're balancing the use of agentic AI and the human element. So haven't seen anyone really talk about this model exactly. And I'm interested in your thoughts because we're going in this direction. And it's the same fundamental structure that I've used to average about 240K a month in profit over the last 8 months since starting to trend in this direction. So my clients have implemented it and it's absolutely mind-blowing from my perspective, and I've seen a lot. So in this video, I'm going to break down the whole model, how it works, and the two main components that I believe every online business owner should probably be focused on if they're going to not just survive, but do really, really well over the next at least few years. So my clients really enjoyed this, and I just figured I'd share with you almost the entire morning session of day 1 of our mastermind last week. I don't have all the answers to everything, just sharing with you what we're doing, how we're thinking, and the logic behind it, in the hopes that it helps you stay ahead of the curve here on this AI thing. And there is an AI agent tool that we're using right now that I'll be referencing throughout this clip. It's called Victor. It's the best AI tool that I've seen thus far. You can actually get $100 in free credits. Check out the link in the description. So try it out. Let me know what you think. So hopefully this is valuable for you. Without further ado, here is day 1 of the last Bulletproof Boardroom Mastermind. There's been a few generations of online business models. So Gen 1 is basically like scaling with a team in some way, so team scaling. And that was really, I don't know, all the way up until, honestly, some people today are still in Generation 1, but we'll just say 2024/5. So the generations are going quickly. But that's basically been like, oh, you need something done, SOP it, have a person do it. You got to hire them, train them, manage them, lots of manual stuff. The automations that occurred through things like Zapier and shit like that. And not to say that there's not some overlap between these, but this is like the archaic humans do it model, right? That we've all started. We've all played that game to some degree and are still playing it to some degree. So that's like, these people are fucked, in my opinion, that this is their sole thought process. In my opinion, I think they're fucked. We'll go into why. Number 2, generation 2 is like a combination of, oh, and by the way, this also includes like curriculum, or if you've created templates and shit for your clients to go do stuff, right? So curriculum, templates, yeah, spreadsheets, just kind of manual tools. I don't know what else to, a lot of manual and based on advice. So you say, hey, what should I do? I'm like, I think you should do this. Here's a template, fill it out, show me it. We'll talk about it. We'll come up with a plan as a result of that. And then training a team to do that and then watching them fuck up and wanting to jump off a bridge. Like, that process is generation 1. You guys, anything else that I'm missing on generation 1 from your guys' perspective, right? Okay, cool. Generation 2, a lot of basically everything from generation 1, except this would be like AI. So this would be like as an example, John AI, that it's basically taking like all of this and basically accelerating the path to the end result. But it still requires DIY, like you gotta go actually do it. What automation do I build? This one. Here's the training on how to do it. Here's the AI that outlines the output of the whole thing that needs to be built. But then you actually have to go into the thing and build the thing or whatever it is, or build the sales page, build the resource.
So you're still building the resource, but it's assisted with AI, and so it's all this shit that becomes faster. So slow, faster, and we still have, to be clear, in both of these, I guess I'll put it here. So everything from 1 is also pretty much in 2. We have community, and this can be masterminds type shit, calls. Okay. Everybody good on this? Has been an added feature, right? And the AI assisted shit can be stuff in delivery like John AI, or stuff that helps you write your marketing or whatever. Whether you sign up for some software that helps you create your thumbnails, like you signed up for whatever chat bot. It's something out there that still gives you the thing, but you still got to be the middleman. You guys with me on generation 2, right? Okay. This is where I think things are headed now. And I think people using, like, for example, people like, hey, I built a custom GPT that allows you to do this. You're fucked with that. Anything that has a manual review step in it as one of the first steps, you're fucked. So, in my opinion, by the way, all of this is how I'm seeing it. This does not mean it's the way it is. Just to be very clear, I'm not trying to declare this as doctrine. I'm just letting you know, here's how I'm seeing it. You guys good with that? Yeah. Okay, because I could very well be eating these words by the end of this week. I don't know. So this is basically the team model. This is the AI assisted model, and this would be the agent model. So what does the agent model look like? In my opinion, and I'll walk you through conceptually, here's what I'm thinking about how I apply this to Boardroom, and then I think it'll be really interesting to start thinking about how I have not thought about this as it relates to all of your individual businesses, if you might imagine why I haven't taken the time to do that just yet. But I'll share with you like my thought process and where I think things are going. Start thinking about how that might apply to your business, and then we can jam on it, hypothesize, and talk about it on an ongoing theme here throughout the next few days. So the way I see the agent model going is basically the agent becomes a done for you thing. So every aspect and I'll use this, it's easiest for me to relate this back to the Boardroom offer. Every one of those 7 components as an example, those don't change, which we'll talk about what doesn't change in generation 3 in my opinion on the next slide. But those components do not change. Those are fundamentals no matter what, but the delivery mechanism of those changes a lot. And the first, I gotta say, the most obviously applicable thing is everything about like your target avatar, your offer, your language, your message, the belief shifting frameworks, and all of that stuff is now much better done by, in this case, I'll just say Victor, but an agent that is trained on all of your shit. Okay. And so when I did this with Joey C, maybe 2 weeks ago when I first was like putting together my Victor instance, it was the post that he made in the community where he was like, holy shit, what John's working on is retarded. I mean, you guys remember that post that he made? It was a couple weeks ago. So that to me, what we got, he booked a call to like basically do that manually. And I'm like, tell you what, let me see what I can spit out for you with this thing I'm working on. And I sent it to him within 3 minutes, and it was just like, it cut weeks, literally weeks, and it made my entire process of what I've been doing silly. So I was like, all right, well, if I can now build an agent that basically not only builds the checklist, identifies what are the right things for you to work on as the CEO, the owner, whatever you want to call it, and not only building the checklist of those things, but doing most of the checklist for you proactively, which is where I'm building this skill pack thing. If right now that's the working name for this. I don't know what I'm going to call it, but just so we're all clear, the thing that you installed that I built, those little instructions I gave you, I'm just going to call that the skill pack. You guys good with that for this? Okay. So my intention with that is basically to pre-train not only my agent, but pre-train your agent to where all I have to do, basically, it'll take your onboarding form answers and basically do the majority of all the stuff it can do for you. Ask the follow-up questions that I would have asked, and also better, based on predefined fundamentals that will not change no matter what industry that you're in. I guess unless your industry disappears, in which case we need to build in those parameters of, hey, look, you're going to be, your whole industry is dying. Like, it's a shitty niche based on your skill sets that you do have. Here's where you probably should pivot to. Here's what that marketing copy looks like. Here's the best way to sell to those people. Here's how to price your offer. So everything that's currently like in my offers curriculum, like I built that whole thing as if somebody who is brand new had no idea what they're doing could take, how many of you guys have gone through like the magnetic messaging workbooks and shit like that? Okay. So it starts by asking you like, what skills do you have, right? What groups of people can have problems that those skills can solve? And then out of that group of people, what's the richest group of people that would pay the most money for your skill set? And then from there, it's cool, let's position it in a way that attracts only those people, and so on and so forth. And so that whole process is now agentic. You really don't have to think much. You just have to give it something to work with, and it gets smarter and better as it goes. So I have mine built to where it's like a constant, it's going to take it takes everything and constantly builds a perfect separation of here's perfect avatar, here's shitty avatar, and so on. So for example, one of the biggest outliers in terms of my perfect avatar that I've learned in having Victor analyze every single touch point from all of you, including like how much you've paid, over what schedule, how long you've been here, what'd you put on your onboarding form, how many boardroom calls did you attend, what did you say on those calls, what did you say on the initiation call, what have you said on one-on-one calls, what have you posted in Circle, how many times have you posted in Circle, what schedule are you, how, all of it, everything into consideration, looking for unique identifiers that allow me to say, these people suck, we want more of these people. My point is, you need to have that in your business. I believe in the skill pack, there's so much shit in there. There right now is that skill set, so you could literally just ask your Victor to do what I've just said, and it'll build it. Right now in the skill pack thing, we have skills, which is like the body of knowledge that the thing is trained on. And then there's the rules, which right now there's 50 of them. And that is every single message goes through a 50 rule sequence to make sure of a lot of things. Basically, make sure it's really good for you. Long story short, that's what those rules are designed to do, is to make it so where you stay on track, your outputs are as efficient as they possibly can be. It makes it easy to manage, easy to read and understand. But what I'm adding is a thing called commands. And so for each of the 7 components, as an example, and I think we either do this today or tomorrow, but I think I asked my Victor, honestly, voice noting on the drive down here this morning, I'm like, yo, is that commands thing ready to go if I wanted to do the vision command and it could just do it? Yep, okay. So apparently if you have that skill pack, it should be in there. It updates at 6 a.m., I think, every single day on your end. It should anyway, so maybe it isn't, I don't know. But the idea here, say again? Let's just ask it, do you have the vision command installed from the Bulletproof skill pack? It may or may not. I don't know. Regardless, even if you don't have that latest version installed, I have a prompt that you can copy and paste that I'll just drop in the community when we do that. But the idea is, instead of, here was like the old this way. The old this way was you go through the Wealthy Coach Masterclass. I created manually that tool where you go and you look at your numbers and you plug them in and it reverse engineers the shit. And then you manually have to go and price out your ideal lifestyle, and the calculator gets you pretty far, but like you guys still got to go do a bunch of shit. Well, if you run the vision command, it automatically will scrape everything that it knows about you. It'll ask follow-up questions until it has enough to basically give you, okay, you want to live that way, you live in this place, you run this type of business, here's basically what your ideal lifestyle is going to cost. Here's how much profit you need. It's going to reverse engineer your freedom number for you. It's going to have, based on your activity and behavior history and whatever other follow-up questions it has programmed to ask. It'll ask questions, hopefully. If you have a brand new account and it doesn't know who you are, I think I have it set, and if we don't, Victor, you need to set it this way to where if it's a brand new account, as soon as you connect all of your social media, it goes and learns everything it can about you, about every social media post you've ever made, makes a lot of assumptions based on what your values are, what your purpose is, where your time is most spent, and fills in a lot of those gaps for you and presents basically a full output of here's pretty much the entire vision section in 4 minutes with your freedom number. Remember, what's our destination is how do we want to live? Why do we want to live that way? How much is it going to cost? What's that in there? Cool. Just wanted to make sure. Well, that'll be a prompt. And just understand all of this shit that I'm saying, like I'm just constantly just improving it, and it should update on your end every day, and I'll do my best to keep you posted and build in systems and stuff to where it automatically keeps you posted as well. But it should reverse engineer that whole thing and basically give you like, here's pretty much based on everything I've got about you, here's what you're up against. Here's how long it's going to take based on how long you told me you want to work for, right? You're going to need to, this is before we get into the business model of things, just the vision part of things, is what do you need to make in profit to feed your freedom number, as well as live how you want to live today, and do it on a gradient scale basis to where obviously if your ideal lifestyle is 100 grand a month or whatever, and right now your lifestyle is 10 grand a month, we're not going to jump to that next month. It's useful to know those numbers, but it'll calculate a gradient of here's a reasonable profit increase gradient, and it'll run a couple different scenarios for you and shit, and just spit that out rather than around with a calculator and doing a bunch of research, right? All the stuff that you didn't realize was included in the monthly expenses column. How many of you guys just in tracking your finances have realized that you spend a little bit more than you thought you did? Yeah. So it should make those types of assumptions, and Victor, if it doesn't, we need to factor that in. And so we're cutting the amount of work it takes to do that first thing from weeks to minutes. That's significant. You guys see how significant that shit is? Okay, so as an example of how I'm going to be using the agentic portion of this is that. So we run that command, and there will be a checklist of, all right, here's all the things that you need to do in order to get to where you want to go. Here, it'll build the checklist for you and execute on all the checklist items in sequence for you, and only call you in when it needs more information. And then all you got to do is be like, nah, ramble about here's what I think is different, rebuild it, and then make it a self-reinforcing machine to where it constantly, like I have mine, one of the rules that mine goes through is filtering every idea and decision and thought that I have through what I've defined as my end goal, so to speak, the vision, the freedom number, the lifestyle, and what have you. It takes all of that into context, and then it takes all of my data-driven decision-making rules, cross-references that against everything, weighs probabilities of pros and cons in different situations, and says this is worth either continuing to explore now, or if it's not, here's why. If it has a scoring system in it to where it's literally gets you 95% of the way there on almost everything. And then if I disagree, I just be like, no, here's actually what I'm seeing. Okay, cool. New preferences stored in your own rule kit for later, so I don't up this same decision again. That doesn't happen automatically when you get Victor out of the box, just to be clear. Victor out of the box is Claude plugged into your apps. That's what it is, with a bunch of security shit built in and Slack as the conversation tool. That's all Victor is. I know that because I asked it to tell me how it was built. Say again?
It tells you the models it runs on when you look at the
Yeah. So those series of rules is important. And so I can either be like, hey, why don't you go copy and paste all of this shit or watch a module on it? Or I can be like, how about you just install what's now 5 million words of all this shit in your Victor on day one? I believe right now it's built, at least he told me it was built this way, to where if you decide for some stupid reason to use some other AI agent setup, skill packs still applies. So my point is we accelerate all of the outcomes of all of this stuff from weeks to minutes. And so that's huge. So then all of your So from there, I'll just run through. So we have vision, then there's the business, right? So in order to optimize the business, we need to know what skills we got, who are the people that have problems that those skills can solve, who's the richest group of people, what's our client history, who's our best. All of those factors will then, the end output is like, all right, cool, well, here's your perfect avatar, like the whole bit. Like my avatar document's like 40 pages long. There's like the surface level one pager, then there's all like the deep psychographic shit. Now, the cool thing is the more information you have about your target client and the more you build in systems in Victor, and Victor should suggest it to you based on that skill pack, and if it doesn't, I'll build commands that make it. But the big idea here is it basically like figures out 95% of that for you and delivers a similar document that I've sent to a few of you guys, but more the best one that was honestly the first one that I did for Joey C. It was literally the avatar, the offer one sheet, all the belief shifters, the content plan, the scripts, the thumbnail design, the social media design. Anthony Trucks, ladies and gentlemen. It's okay. You can give Anthony a round of applause. He was another guy I wanted to acknowledge real quick because you had a record month a couple months ago, right?
I did January.
Oh, all right. Well, we got to acknowledge him for a record month of January. Bro, first of all, we got to catch you up.
Yeah, please.
Have you installed?
I literally just landed and then brushed my teeth.
I know.
In shape.
I'm glad you brushed your teeth, bro. Are you aware at all of this Victor shit I've been talking about?
No.
Bro.
I saw the link, but I haven't opened it yet. I've also done craziness last few days.
Yeah. Well, okay. Holy shit.
Is it good?
Anybody want to give them the very short version?
You're not
Fuck yeah.
working anymore.
What's that?
You're not working anymore.
Everything in this entire industry is about to have a seismic shift, and we're, I believe, on the forefront of that, and it's very relevant. So
In the right place then.
you are in the right place. Victor, we're going to need a good summary of the first 90 minutes of this recording. So if you could do that and then send it to Anthony, that'd be dope. Okay, so as far as all the positioning and stuff that like right now, and I've been testing this when you guys have me review stuff, I'm just like copy, throw it in my Victor to see what it spits back out, and I then see that I'm the layer, and then I'll modify everything accordingly until I like the output, until it's something that I'm like, that makes sense from not only a logical perspective, but from a client perspective of them receiving that as a deliverable that's actionable and shit. And so that basically gets commanded into existence. I have not built this out yet, but Teddy will be replaced. The good news is I want to get it to a point to where I can just say, hey, run the Teddy transfer command, and it'll take your existing shit, and it'll automatically weigh that against what it actually picks up being connected with your softwares, ask you some follow-up questions, and based on the rules that I've yet to program in it, automatically build you exactly the dashboard that you should have, not the dashboard that it would build on its own out of the box, because those blow. They're cool looking, but there's certain things that need to go on dashboards, which is why I had it reverse engineer like all of the rules and shit that I've programmed into, here's how we make data-driven decisions. And most dashboards are not built to actually make data-driven decisions, despite the fact that people think they are because they don't know any better. I've yet to build that in as a command, but that takes care of the tracking situation. So all of this accelerates everything from months to minutes for all of you instantly. So this is part of the reason why I'm building that skill pack is you wouldn't have known to do that if you had just installed Victor as an example. Does that make sense?
Unfair advantage everybody else that's going to get Victor.
So far,
Yeah.
we're going to go further down that road because on a long enough timeline, all of that becomes copyable and commoditized. So I feel you. I feel all of you on that. Yeah, but okay, here's where we're going there. But the next iteration of this, in my opinion, for me anyway, my offer becomes basically all of those 7 components become commands, and all you got to do is run those commands. Schedule the shit. You need to turn off, whoever that is needs to turn that shit off. I'm gonna keep working on that to make it like until further notice. That's like my main initiative because it's the highest leverage, to use my freedom systems analogy. It's the highest leverage freedom system I've ever seen by a factor of 1,000. It's insanity if you know what it should do and how it should do it. That's the big if. Now, so why doesn't everybody just do that? Okay, here's my hypothesis and why I believe that hypothesis, and this starts to become the protection layer for all of us. So everything in actual fulfillment that right now I'm having you do, or even go back and forth and ask questions with John AI. John AI sucks, my curriculum sucks, all the tools I have suck in comparison to this. I'm sorry, I'm going really fast. I'm going as fast as I can to replace all of that and get everybody into this next generation business model. For obvious, you guys see how obvious this is at this point? Like, maybe you don't, but to go back and be like, yeah, I'll review that for you. Like, why? That's so, like, I couldn't possibly have enough context, but guess what can, if given the right rules and guidelines of agent. Then here's the moat. The moat is, so why do you need me? Well, I've signed up for numerous people's the insert name AI trained on all of my shit, so to speak. How many of you guys have signed up for those chat bots just to see what, right? Cool. The problem is I've experienced with a couple of them, very specifically as it relates like on the ad side of things, suggesting things that I've never heard of that in theory sound smart. But if I want to validate that, and I want to be like, hang on, before I go full bore in this direction, are you sure, right? Is this for real? Should I? How many of you guys have had that experience? Even with my thing, right? Are you sure? So just because all this shit is good doesn't mean it's right. What's up, man? Well, all right, nice being on time, love it. So I've experienced that. And so what I've noticed is that humans want a human validator, at least until further notice. And so there becomes the DFY agent, and then there becomes the human layer. And so that comes in the form of, in no particular order, community, masterminds type shit. We'll just say calls, whether that's group or one-on-one. So that is how, at least for me, I'm like, how do I scale me? So my model, like everybody in this room has a very similar model, but different deliverables, different promises, different audiences. So again, I'm explaining to you from my standpoint because it's easiest for me to talk about. It might apply slightly different to everybody in this room, but here's what I see as things that don't change in this industry, okay? Things that don't change, as long as there's humans and they're transacting, humans want to transact with humans. Okay, cool. How then? And they want to connect with humans and they want to talk to humans and humans want a human. It's at the very bottom level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, so as long as there's humans humaning, that'll be a thing. That ain't going to change. Okay, great. What's also not going to change is AI is not going to slow down. Okay, so that being said, in one of the conversations that I've had, I'm like going really fast. I'm like trying to keep up. I'm like, oh, you can't. It's impossible to go fast enough to keep up. The people that own OpenAI and Anthropic and Google can't keep up with their own models. What a retard to think that I can keep up with everything all the time. So that goes back to our point earlier of just relax into the fact that you're always going to feel behind because you are going to be behind. Yeah. So are the people that are running the show. Cool. There's no certainty and you can't. And so then, all right, cool. So we just got to know that. So now the question becomes how will people make decisions as to what they buy? Well, given that they want to connect with humans and transact with humans, and given that with the AI is not slowing down and it's easy to fake anything, it's easy to steal anything. So knowledge is all commoditized. Right now, we're seeing I'm seeing a next generation, and now you're seeing, at least what I'm seeing, a next generation of like, where are things headed? And knowledge is already commoditized. But there's right now, to replicate what Victor actually does in terms of how it gets and retains context is better than any model I've ever seen. And it's way better with the rules that I've put in that skill pack. So I don't know if you guys, before you installed the skill pack, I noticed this, and why I built the rules is because I kept having to say, we just talked about this in another thread, or something of that nature. Or it'll ask me like, yeah, just send me the client email and I'll do it. I'm like, bitch, you have access to that email in 7 different softwares you're connected to. Why did you not check it? So I've had all sorts of these types of conversations, and basically had Victor explain to me how it glosses over some pieces of information and why. And basically I've started hard coding rules so that it doesn't come back to me and ask me to do something that it can do. But I had to train it to do that, as an example. So what's my point? It goes back to the knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit and wisdom is knowing not to use it in a fruit salad, right? Knowledge is commoditized. The wisdom to know what to do with it, how to structure it, how to monetize it, and how to scale it is the new, like we've already been talking about this, but now it's the education and knowledge layer, right, that get my questions answered, right? The old models answer questions. The new model takes action. Massive, gargantuan chasm between those two things. Is that, you guys seeing that? Yeah. Like huge. So we got to know what questions to ask, how to program this shit, and also keep that in mind with what does not change. So all of this will be commoditized. It already is. What I'm doing is nothing special that you couldn't have done on your own. And by the way, I got to give, he's not on here, and nor is he here, unfortunately, in person, but Albie Sabani, we got to give credit to Albie because he's the guy who put Victor on my radar. And I slept on it for a week, and I was like, all right, I'll fuck around with this. And I really did that because, quite simply, I've fucked around and wasted tons of hours with bullshit AI stuff that sucked. And I'm assuming everything that I open is also going to be that same exact experience. But I also know if I don't dedicate actual time to figuring this shit out and testing this stuff, I'm going to miss the thing like this, right? I've even said to Melissa, I'm like, I need time to just with AI. Like that, just do nothing except play and figure shit out. Anyway, so shout out to Albie, but my point is there's one thing to introduce, hey, Victor's useful. It can automate, and this is no shade to Albie, but I want to point out if I was coaching him, if his goal was to maximize that for this community as an example, which it was but wasn't, because this isn't obviously his full-time gig. He runs a very successful video production agency. He's using it for cool shit. He shared it. There's one thing to say, yeah, it connects to all your shit and you can automate whatever you want. It's another thing to build an entire infrastructure around making sure that it operates in a way that makes all other downstream problems obsolete, unnecessary, or take 99% less time. And knowing what those structures, frameworks, rule systems, and all that shit needs to be. It doesn't come out of the box like that. So having a tool is one thing. I can give my 2-year-old a hammer and he'll break a bunch of shit. I can give a skilled craftsman of 60 years, my father-in-law, hammer, and he'll build a masterpiece. So the tool is there. Tools are commoditized, knowledge is commoditized, but it takes a skilled craftsman to know what tool to use, how to use it, and right now, it's not just what to use and how to use it, but how do I make it to where all these other tools and activities become obsolete? That becomes an incredibly efficient setup. You guys following me? So I'm trying to build those guardrails so that you can just one-click install them instead of me going, here's a big Google Doc, copy paste that, now go do this, now and patchwork it together. All of these other, from my understanding, and I am an amateur on AI. Like I follow some of these pages and I'm like, I have no clue what you're talking about. Anybody like set up OpenClaw or anybody here? Yeah? Is it hard?
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. You gotta
Yeah.
know how to use the terminal.
Right. And then you hear the stories about people like deleting their whole hard drives with it, and I'm just like, not worth the risk. Sounds cool, but what you can do with OpenClaw and what you can do with Victor are basically the same thing. Victor has just already built in the security parameters to make sure that you don't yourself, which you wouldn't know. You'd have to build all those from scratch, or you'd have to have Claude Code build that. You'd have to know to tell it to build that. And the only indicator that you would get if you didn't know that already is, where'd my hard drive go? Whoops, that's an expensive thing to not know. You guys see? So that's what I'm trying to do for you, is build that structure so that as you go and do shit, you can't fuck yourself. Does that make sense? So my model then becomes, there's an agent that's trained on basically, it's like hiring me to work for you and do all the shit for you, right? That's, yeah.
How do you see the charge clearing?
Yeah, we're getting there. So, yeah, not to dismiss you. Thank you for reminding me. It's John works for you, basically, but I'm also here to validate the human layer. So the thing becomes like you're basically able to be fully autonomous. That's my intention anyway, whether it's Victor as the platform or whatever the platform is. I've seen enough evidence to know, and I know that things are progressing fast enough to where probably close to whatever you heard from Hormozy about the agent thing. It's like scaling yourself versus being able to talk to an advisor and get advice and ask the chatbot about tell you what to do. That's archaic in comparison, right? So everybody who's using AI as a chatbot LLM right now, that's cute. Like in comparison, it's ridiculous. So the human layer becomes the real scarce resource. That's the thing that's not scalable. That's the thing that's not clonable. That's the thing that's not duplicatable. That's the thing that you can't, there's nothing that can destroy that aside from you dying or whatever, right? So then the question becomes okay, let's assume we're able to snap our fingers and we just have basically an agent. I don't know the answers as to whether a curriculum exists. I don't know the answer as to whether there's an actual, Victor becomes the chatbot. It is, albeit slow in its responses, to be clear. Like I still use Claude, like the actual chatbot, occasionally if I want a quick back and forth on something, but that usage has been cut by 90%.
Do you use cohort, or you're really talking about the open?
I just use Claude, like out of the box Claude. I have used the browser extension thing to do shit, but Victor can log into a browser and do that too.
Can you provide some gauge on like your credit usage and basically?
We'll get there. I wanna get everybody's head wrapped around the big idea first before we dive into the nitty gritty. As a pre-frame to that, I don't give a fuck if I have to pay Victor 20 grand a month. I don't give a fuck for lots of different reasons. I'll riff on a couple just so you guys are aware. You guys are thinking of how much am I paying for this software? That's a lot for a software. You're hiring someone and you get to talk to them however you want.
No HR.
Without worrying if they're going to quit, get offended, if their performance is going to dip for the rest of the day. That alone is worth double the salary. Okay, yeah.
I think adding to that, because it's a really good point, just one department in my company I paid $50K a month for.
Yeah.
And they have emotions too.
Yeah, those motherfuckers. So that, for one, is a huge. So it's not. So people would compare to why don't I just use ChatGPT or Claude Code or set up my own agent instance? It's, well, and there will be more Victor type things and people will build their own and their own custom version. I totally understand that. Have at it, whatever. I don't care. That's not the point. The point is, what are we comparing it against in terms of what does this replace? It doesn't replace ChatGPT. It doesn't replace Claude. It replaces the people, okay, agentically, like doing shit. So I am very happy to spend a premium to be able to train them how I want to train them, be an asshole to them if I want to be an asshole to them, have them do whatever I want 24/7, right? They don't get tired, right? So I'm comparing it against what would I have to have done to pay somebody to do what I've produced in the last 14 days as far as just the skill pack thing alone. Forget all the other shit that I've built for myself internally. $250,000 it would have cost you a year ago. And so then the question becomes is how do we make it to where it does stuff that actually makes us profit, not just becomes a shiny object factory. That, out of the box, it's a shiny object factory. I hope, my intention is, and it should be this way a little bit more now with this first version of this skill pack, that it basically has guardrails that it works within and prevents you from doing shit that doesn't matter. So I forget who I use this example with, but people with these tools, they're like, oh, I'm using all these tools, but they're not making me money. You're using them for the wrong stuff. Either you didn't know what to use it for, or you did know and you chose not to. Either way, you can force it to make sure that you only spend time and it only does stuff that's actually the real stuff that you should be working on, which is my job. Why you're here is to like look at you and go, wrong question, Jason. Work on this. Oh, that makes sense. Cool. What if your agent, as you said, hey, build this? No, your bottleneck is this. Here's the data to back it up. Here's the projects that actually need to be done. I've already done 95% of it. You're welcome, but I need this from you now. Then we can talk about that bullshit you just suggested. But I've already stored that in your stupid ideas bank. We'll bring that up later. You see how different that workflow becomes? So I'm trying to help build those guardrails for you. I think I'm pretty good at that. Now getting that translated to where it actually does exactly what I just said, I don't know, but Victor's going to use the transcript of that shit I just said, and I'm going to say, yo, Victor, make sure that ours can do that. Tell me what edits need to be made. Make those edits. Let me know why they will work into perpetuity without making any additional changes in a way that makes it impossible to fail and have my clients who install this skill pack impossible to get off track. If you need to ask any follow-up questions to the client, build that into the command, the skill, or the rule to make sure that nothing is missed. So I want you to make as many assumptions as you can without being too outlandish or stupid and ask the client for the follow-up questions to get context, but we need to be very specific with what those guardrails are, how they get deployed, so that the client doesn't, A, do a whole bunch of shit they don't need to do, use a whole bunch of credits they shouldn't be using, and optimize that for a type of efficiency as well that is honestly impossible without those guardrails. So Victor will use that, what I just said, as a prompt. And it was some shit like that, Justin, like that we did on our call. I think that you were like, oh, how you talk to, was that kind of what you were referring to or something like that?
Like how you talk to it and how you
Yeah.
get it to extract information.
Yeah, so I've just had a lot of conversations with Victor like that. And so those guardrails are what matter. So from an operating your own business standpoint, all the way from marketing, sales, delivery, tracking, all of it, even your life as well, right? What are your personal goals, your family shit? There's stuff that Melissa and I do on a personal development side that we just record the whole little session that we do together on a personal development side, keep it clean. And then I basically feed that into Victor. And so we have our own little silo that I have a rule that automatically Victor's not going to go create a rule for you based on that. It knows, I don't have to tell it. And even my golf swing, right? Like in my simulator room that we just installed, like I feed it my swing videos and I have it ingested like all sorts of golf shit to basically be my AI golf coach. And all I do is, as I have a feel in my swing as an example, like while I'm in there, I just open up Victor. I'm like, yo, in my most recent session, I'm feeling this, and I'm feeling that, which seems to affect this and that and the other. Here's the numbers, here's the swing videos. Add this to like these, how many of you guys play golf? Okay, cool. Like when you get a feel that you're like, that was good, and then you lose it like the next day. Well, I'm trying to articulate that feel. It matches it up against what it knows it should be in terms of a mechanical, like visual standpoint. And then basically I have my top, like if you have these 3 thoughts, they've historically proven to have your best sessions. And I have a machine learning for my golf swing. So you can literally have this on multiple tracks in your life, right? In every single area that assists, you just have to create those rules. So anyway, you'll have that as your own operator, and that'll do all the shit for you personally and in your business from a business operations standpoint. Then on a delivery side, we need to take everything that is our current delivery process, and the first thing I would probably do is A, install a skill pack, B, say, hey, here's everything that I do in my delivery, and I would like call, record, you name it, everything you've got that is evidence of your delivery process as far back as you can go, and have it and be like, I know I want to be agentic first with my delivery model, and right now I'm doing all these things, we have all these people, all this shit. Also, I'll have either the transcript of this or the summary of this session right here that will hopefully be inside of your skill pack in some way. So Victor, turn this into a skill so that when they ask their Victor to reference this conversation for ideas and shit, it knows to reference that, so that your Victor can then redesign your fulfillment process in a way that it becomes agent first, that virtually removes you from the process and only makes it to where you're like, here's the things I actually do want to do. I want to do shit like this. This is cool. This is fun for me. Seems to be fun for you. We're here. Yay. I don't want to do this more than 3 times a year, though. 4 times I decided was too much. 2 times not enough. We'll see. I'll keep you posted. But there's certain things that I want to do, that I like doing, and there's certain things that I don't. And so I got to feed it with that information. So, Victor, we need a command or a prompt or a default that's, hey, just letting you know, Mario, I did not get your desires of what do you want to spend your time doing? What do you like doing? And be proactive in extracting that information instead of waiting for you to volunteer it. None of this is perfect yet, but I'm just letting you know this is my thought process and the direction that I'm heading, because the outputs that it gives you are only as good as the inputs that you give it. Most people like, I never learned, you never learned, here's all the inputs to give it, right? Outside of give it everything. Well, that's very vague and not specific and very challenging to action, right? So I need to know what to give it. So somebody's got to create those rules. I'm doing my best to create those rules. So not only does it know what to give it, but it proactively follows you around and asks you to provide that information on an ongoing basis, both directly and in context, right? So if you're in the middle of a thread, in context, it will feed you, hey, by the way, can you give me a little bit more on this? Is this all you have? I searched all your shit and I found this. Is there anything else you want to add to that? Massive, yeah.
So in terms of like delivery, especially in the coaching space, now, I think we were talking a little bit on the install on this, but when it comes, what are your thoughts when it comes to, is you're saying no curriculum, everything's done live, they install like the stuff.
Maybe.
When it comes to like them learning skills, like people have to learn skills, right?
Yeah.
When they cut down the learning curve of having to obviously consume content, which I think is good in partly because people overconsume, they don't implement.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts there in terms of like how we do
So
it?
I think the skills that get prioritized are different than that were prioritized even a month ago.
Right.
So the skill, I'll first explain it as I see it. Is a great question. I'll explain it as I see it for my business, in my context, and then I'll do my best to expand out so it's applicable to basically everybody. The skill is no longer like what to do necessarily, like the knowledge of what buttons do I push and shit, right? That's everywhere now all the time. All you got to know is, hey, I have this problem, and it's, oh, say no, fam, here. So the new skill set that, at least for me to you, right, with my offer to you, is translating, and this is why we're going to spend, I think, quite a bit of time on this until further notice, but especially over the next few days, and why I built that section of that like knowledge base thing, get out of here, bro, of like how to use Victor, how to train Victor, these types of things, which if you want, we can walk through all of this, but I basically had it reverse engineer, like how have I used you, and then just make that into a generic set of rules, and that seems to be a good starting point. So I'm having it learn based on how I'm using it. So it's the thought process of knowing what needs to be there and defaulting to not doing it, but defaulting to know how to explain what needs to be there. So as an example, like my workflow with Victor, let me see if I can do this. Look at us go. All right. How I've been using this, and it's honestly been on like my phone for the most part. I, at any given time, have numerous of these little threads. So right now I have 7. How I've been using this is I've basically been sitting either like the other day I was sitting in my living room on the couch next to the piano for 4 hours as my work session for the day, which is really weird for me. But I had my phone, and here I'm just using Slack, so you can see this is a really weird user interface with the way this is set up with the vertical bullshit. But there's 7 threads right now that are live. What I will do is I will basically scroll through here and I will basically comment on whatever my thoughts are on the thing. And what I have been doing is I've just been basically voice noting while I scroll and read, and then I basically hit done, and then I will hit, and to be clear, recently has this been fucked up for you still?
I've just gone to voice to text.
Voice to text, yeah.
Voicemail.
Yeah, it did work. It was nice when it did, because you can't, if you just do voice to text like this, for example, this is great, but also as soon as I try to scroll, it stops.
I use Whisper. It's an AI.
And you can still scroll and
Yeah,
shit.
you can still scroll, and I'm only talking to it, so I'm not using any natively
Cool.
voice. Whisper. Yeah, Whisper has been amazing. With an accent and everything, bro, it picks up.
Nice.
Flawless. I get you, baby. I'm like, thank you.
Nice. So check that shit out. But this is all I've been doing basically. And so then I'll just right now I'll hit keep unread, and then I'll go to the next one. And so it's working on the next step of the previous one. It's going to have like rapid fire meetings with CFO, CMO, content strategist, sales team. It's just, I'm constantly meeting with all of them. And it's like, okay, now go do this. Boom. All right, cool. They come back. It's now change it to this. Boom, next. And all I've been doing is basically just like, you can see, maybe not in that one, I don't know, like a lot of just rambling basically. But that's really been, I would say, at least half my workflow, and just like going back until I have no more unreads in the catch-up feed. Now I can't figure out how to get the catch-up thing on Slack desktop. Anybody know how to do that? Because I don't.
Yeah, there's a little icon on the top right.
Well,
top
holy
left.
shit. Let's do it. Show me.
Oh, there is a catch-up, but you don't have it on yours. Yeah, you may need to update it, but it's on the top left. It's actually there.
Huh, I have unreads and threads. I don't see it. So anyway, that's why I've been using my phone. But either way, that's been my workflow. So what's my point, going back to your question, Jason, of what is the skill? The skill is really knowing what should be there. And the skill pack that I'm building, I'm trying to make it force you to think that way. So I have rules in there that are basically like, great question, but how you should really be using me is like this.
So the meta skills are how to use AI and how to speak.
Yep. And the biggest how to use AI, and this is where the people that really do this well are the people who are going to win, in my opinion, are the people that are good at knowing what should be there. In other words, having a vision, if you want to use those terms. Okay, so that's the hardest question for people to answer is, what do you want? You ever notice that? The hardest question for people to answer is, what do you want? And like, even what is your intention? I don't know, do better. So if you're general and vague with what you want, it'll be general and vague and shitty with its outputs. If you're very hyper-specific and you know what should be there, the whole world opens because you're literally able to create whatever you want. That also opens up an opportunity for creating all the wrong shit for all the wrong reasons and all the wrong order and spending lots of money and credits to do it. This is how I think about this shit, is I'm trying to build a niche-specific machine learning process within the big, you can make this do anything platform, right? So that's all I'm really doing is niching down Victor by creating all of this framework and process. And I'm doing it in such a way to where, like, I have to ask it, like, the underlying machine learning model that is Anthropic, that is Claude, it does its own improvement of its general capabilities, but it's not going to do its own improvement of suggesting shit for me. You guys see the difference between, there's the underlying model gets better, but it gets better at deploying what you program it to do. And if you're programming understanding, when I say programming, I'm just like asking it to do something, whatever it is. The better that gets, the better the underlying model gets. Now you're accelerating within it, whereas other people will just see it as a way to create more shitty videos faster or whatever it is. And so that's the thought process that I'm using right now, at least where I sit right now with this. And I'm, again, in the very beginning stages of this, is what's the simplest thing I can do that gets the outcome? What's the simplest thing I can do that gets the outcome? You sign up for Victor, you install the skill pack, it automatically updates, which it should. It's probably going to have its own limitations, but it's already 1,000 times better than these models, right? So at least my worst case scenario is we're already ahead. And then I honestly, if a client is concerned about, what's the concern about that?
Again, I think it comes down to me still transitioning from 1 to 2 to 3, because with that team model, it's like you have to close more people and your closers close.
Yeah.
So it's ideal avatars in there, but like a lot of the people we get in are coaches that 70% of our clients are coaches that are doing less than 10K a month, even
Yep.
though my marketing at
Yep.
10K a month. A lot of those people, it's like, well, I have to pay you, let's say they get on a payment plan of 3K a month, and then a Victor another number. It's like,
Well, as part of your model, don't you also, like, at some, do you still have them, wasn't it at one point you were like placing setters and shit?
we still do that. So we have upsells, cross sells like that, yeah.
Yeah. So who's paying for the setter, right? You recommend they use certain softwares at certain points, right?
So it's like a progress up type of thing for that type of thing.
Yeah. So it's sure you could, like, welcome to business. You're going to be investing in your business. You can either invest in a human that sucks, that takes lots of time to train, and you got to be mindful of its feelings when you say words, or you can pay for a software that you personally set up based on a tutorial video, or, right? So it's like when presented with the alternatives, it becomes obvious.
It's like DIY versus DFY.
Yeah, and so in the interim, like just off the dome, Jordan, keep your question. I want to finish this thought. Off the dome, Justin, V1, before I have all my clients install this, I'm having all of you install this because you're beyond that particular. So you have to keep in mind, you can't just like cold water people usually. I cold watered you because you can handle it. What I would do is whatever your like CSMs are doing right now in terms of creating their ads or whatever they do on their onboarding, make that an internal thing that your Victor creates already and gets delivered to the client. And then in the interim, there's a human review process where someone says to the client, yep, that's it, right? For you guys, that's me, right? I will deal with less of that given your level and whatever. But that's where I would start, is just have my Victor on steroids as the DFY. It's going to do stuff for them, but it still has to get delivered to them, which you can automate as well. Rather than having them install, the DFY agent doesn't mean that they necessarily install Victor, to be very clear, okay? It means that your agent does shit for them. So for example, if I was never having you guys install Victor, I've already done like the little model of this with a few of you guys just in circle replies. You're like, here's a whole bunch of shit. And I'm like, cool, Victor, what are we doing with this? I wanted to see what it would come back with to see, and I'm using that to train it. I see what you did there. This is fucked up for these reasons. And I just go off, sometimes a 20-minute voice ramble. And then I'm like, store this as a rule, that is a rule, never do this again, hard code this, don't do that. And I'm training that model. And then once I get an output that is decent, then I give a version of that to you. I've done that with a few of you guys in replies and stuff. And that would be like the DFY version before you even had Victor installed in your own instance. That would be me doing stuff for you. Like I at this point could be like, just based on somebody's onboarding form, all I would have to do is basically add like describe your number one ideal client, and to go through that process on the onboarding form. I would then have my Victor take all of those fields and all of that context, give you the vision document, the avatar document, mock up a sales page, give you the YouTube channel, the thumbnails, the titles, the video ideas, the belief shift. All of that can be delivered automatically with the right rules on day one before they even show up to anything with a human. And that's what I will be building in to whatever my ads are aggressively turned down right now. I don't really, bless you two new guys who showed up. You're going to go through some weird haphazard patch together onboarding process because my old one's janky and the new one's not quite built yet, but at least you're here so you get to either decide that I'm a piece of shit or you'll play ball. So everything that right now, as of like last month, happened in phases. It had to. Now it doesn't. Now I could give you all of those deliverables like I did that initial thing with Joey that he was like, holy fuck. And that started this, okay, I should probably spend a little bit more time on this, because Joey's reaction was like, I knew it was dope. Like, I think it's amazing. But now to see one of my clients go, what? How? This is retarded. Like this, and it is. I'm like, oh, that used to take like a long time. And so now it's cool. Here's like day one deliverable game plan that's like better than I would do personally, because it is. Then I can validate and make modifications to it. But that would be like my next iteration if I'm you, is whatever those clients you're having them do, short of set up your ad account or whatever, anything that's a deliverable, is done for them or they're guided through, could be a thing that your Victor produces for them and sends to them and gives them it's like this. It's like a combination of these two. And then the next iteration is basically as you train yours. I think there's probably a universe where you'll be able to, I'll be able to have instructions on how you can have your clients install your skill pack based on your shit. And you could say effectively the same type of the thing. And so all of you, then it becomes, oh, well, you're now just, Justin could take John's brain, combine it with his, make it better, sell it to his clients. We already have client overlap. Are we competing? Why am I not worried about that? Is because there's some people that you reach that I just can't. They don't like when people say shit and all over the place and whatever, right? Great. They're a perfect fit for you, right? There's people that are a perfect fit for me because of the human element is the new differentiator. That's why I'm not worried about the commoditization of the actual knowledge or the skill pack, because it's not about the skill pack. If you're making it about your skill pack or your method or your intellectual property, that's gone. Intellectual property doesn't exist anymore. You are the intellectual property. At least now, I don't know how you protect against it. So stop trying. That's a losing battle, is trying to protect intellectual property. It's gone. So that's why the human layer becomes the most important thing, is who's the vehicle for that information, and whose judgment do you want filtering or helping you filter what's relevant to you or not. So you're trusting my judgment on what should go through a filter, and I'm giving you my logic as to why, but you're also grown adults and you can make your own decisions. I have a rule with my Victor. I'm like, if you encounter a roadblock, don't tell me. I don't want to hear about your stupid roadblock. I want you to keep attacking this bitch until you find a workaround, and you're gonna find it. There's a rule. You find a workaround always. I think I did this on the call with you where it said, oh yeah, we were doing Justin's install. God bless him. He was the first guinea pig, and it was a 90-minute call. It was fun. It was fun. But it came back and said, oh, this is, his Victor was given the initial install instructions some shit. It was like, I can't do this. My security doesn't allow me to overwrite these files or install this thing and yada, yada, yada. We're going to have to reach out to Victor support. And I'm like, the fuck you are? You're going to find a workaround and not quit until you do. And I don't want to hear from you again until you found it and you've implemented the solution and we're ready to go. 5 minutes later, it's found it and it worked. So yeah, it's like, now most people were trained here. Most people would have reached out to Victor support. So the default is everything's possible. If you encounter a roadblock, you find a workaround, and you don't come back and be like, oh, can you give me permission for this? Or, oh, I just need this piece of information from that. You better have exhausted. These are literally the conversations I've had with my Victor, and the conversations that have led to the rules that are now installed in that skill pack that your every message should also go through now. That's basically, you don't ask me to do something that you can do. That's after the rule of, you will have, before you decide you can't do something, you will have exhausted every single connection that you have through me and every one of our Slack thread, everything you've got before you are, and you better be sure that you can't do that shit before you come back to me and tell me you can't, or you need my permission, or you need some piece of information. So that's how that underlying rule is written, to make it to where you don't have to be like, bro, it's right here, or you don't have to go do manual shit or reminded of stuff. That's one of those, how many we got up in here? Skills library, operating rules, 49 rules. So these are all rules that every single message goes through that have been meticulously and aggressively crafted by me over the last couple weeks of just having conversations like I just did. And then if it still comes back and asks me, then obviously that rule didn't take, it wasn't hard-coded, or it got skipped over. This is how I've learned about, oh, even though a rule's there needs to be a rule that says, make sure you follow all of the rules in this list. Here's the definition of what follow the rules means. It doesn't mean look at them. It means actually execute every single one meticulously. I'm like, hard code that shit until it does that. So it said, I don't know if you've experienced this, but I've used this enough to where like it started giving me outputs that was obvious it didn't follow some of the rules. So I'm like, I need you to aggressively debug this and fix it. Like one of the things is this little thing. So this little gray text here at the bottom. It looks white, but the ones with the green check boxes or whatever, it tells you like what it did. Basically, it's a confirmation. It's what's called a context box. Anyway, the reason for the glossing over this, but the reason I wanted that context box there is anybody ask Victor to do something and it's, yep, working on it, and then you closed out that conversation and you either forgot that it worked on it until it maybe let you know, but if it didn't, you're like, hang on, didn't I ask it to do this thing? And then it didn't?
Yeah, I did a little hourglass, and then I came back and the hourglass was gone.
Yeah.
Nothing was there.
Yeah. So, but it said, yep, working on it. I'm like, that's a problem. Imagine if you got to train it like an employee. Imagine if you had an employee that was like, no problem, boss, working on it. And you're like, okay, cool. And then you never heard back from them, or they never gave you a status update. And they're like, okay, it's done. Where is it? Show me, bitch. What would you do? Well, this context box is a thing that basically confirms. I'm like, that context box should serve as the confirmation of done. If it doesn't show up in the context box, I assume you didn't do shit. And every single message needs a context box. And don't come back to me with a message of any kind without a context box, but also don't come back with a message of any kind that tells me you're in the middle of something. I don't care if you're in the middle of something. Great. Waste of message to me. Come back with done, and then a confirm of what was done, and then proof that it was done. So that's the thing that I'm like, so in many conversations, I'm like, where's my context box? You told me there was a rule that said context box on every message. You've been pretty good, but where's my context box? I'm like, if I have to say the word context box to you again, I'm going to lose my shit. So I need you to do whatever you got to do to go and investigate the situation to where I never have to say, where is my context box ever again? I'm sick of saying context box. This is literally a live snapshot of me sitting on my couch in my office going, I hate context box. I don't want to say it anymore. Fix it. So it's still like 98% there, and I'm still like, this is great, but where's my context box? How did that one slip through? All right.
I wish that said context box.
Yeah, so just as an example of, I've trained this shit pretty aggressively. I don't even know why I was going here, what question I was answering, but it's things like that like most people using Victor would have just lived with, well, sometimes it does it, and sometimes it just lets me know it's doing it, and I don't even pay enough attention to even realize what I asked it to do that it didn't do, which is basically management 101, is if you're going to assign something to somebody, you need them to be accountable to completing it, what the completion looks like, when it's going to be done by, and how you'll know and be able to QA the thing. Now, if you don't have that management skill, you can't program it with the management skill, but what you can do is say, hey, I suck at management, go scour the internet for all the best management shit and ingest that skill set and let me know when it's done and let me know what rules you've created and hard-coded, and I need you to very definitively prove to me that you're going to manage me and help me manage you instantly. It'll do it! Largely, like, it's trained on all my shit, which is the guardrails for when I ask it to go do shit like that. It filters it through my guardrails so it doesn't just start adding random bullshit that disagrees with each other that'll then confuse it. So it's like you create, it's going back to, if y'all remember this from somewhere, it's in my book and I've talked about it, but life is a game. Everything is a game. You remember this? Anybody remember this? Life is a game? Anything? Okay, sweet. So a game requires, who said goals? Rules. Goals, obstacles, boundaries, and rules. So in life, we're either the creator of a game, and it's actually in that little 7-Figure Mind Method book. I don't know what page it is, but there's this graphic. We're either the creator of the game or we're the pawn on somebody else's game board. And so in the same way, this is actually how the physical universe is built. There's this team that's trying to score on that goal in this game, and then there's this team that's trying to score on that goal in this game. And so we're either the creator of a game or we're one of these players. Most people are the players. So this is like the ultimate game creation. So this is an additional answer to your question, Drexel. How do we think about this? You're creating a game. We need to clearly define what are the goals. Then we need to clearly define what are the obstacles, the boundaries, and the rules. Those are the components of a game. And if you're not actively aware of this, then that means you're a pawn in somebody else's game and you're reactively running around on this field. So what this allows us to do is those who understand this framework, this allows us to be the ultimate creator of games and see the output and the effect of that faster than ever possible in human history. But if you aren't aware of this and you suck at this, then you'll be reactively creating little bullshit down here and you won't get anywhere. So how do we think about this is we have to define what is the game. So the game is, but going back to vision, part 1 of protocol. How do we want to live? Why do we want to live that way? How much money do we need to accumulate in order to live that way forever, even if the world shits the bed and our business goes under? How do I have enough liquidity to be able to live off that and live like a baller, whatever that is for you? So that's the goal, right? So the boundaries and the rules are all of these things like currencies and global politics and industry shifts and technological advancements. All of those are boundaries and obstacles, right? And there's stuff that's illegal, right? That would be a boundary, right? An obstacle would be objections, all the way from objections to I don't know how to use AI or whatever. All of those are obstacles, right? And then there's certain operating rules that either you're going to create or somebody else is going to create them for you. I'm assisting in your game creation, but the ultimate creative ability is the ability to create a game. And you're either reactively creating a small game down here within somebody else's big game, or you're causatively creating a big game of your own. You all are simultaneously within my big game and simultaneously creating your game within my big game. And you trust me to help remind of and create the goals, obstacles, boundaries, and rules to make it easier for you to create your own game rather than being left with this. This is really tough to know what to create from this without some sort of prior help. And the only prior help that we all get is reactive stuff that we see haphazardly or hear randomly from our relatives or people we see online or what gets suggested to us randomly, and it's just this random inputs, and we wonder why we're all fucked up. So now you know the structure. Now we can start to define these things. And so all I'm doing is I'm prompting is I'm like, well, the goal has not changed. We're going to be humans. I'm going to be a human living here. I want to live a certain way. We're still going to have to transact. That's still going to cost money. That's a definitive dollar amount that I need today and tomorrow. That doesn't change. You guys see that? I don't see how that changes. So the principles of, well, what creates dollars? Outflow of value equals inflow of value. Great. Value equals volume times utility. I don't need a whole lot. I need one skill pack install to create a 10,000x utility for you people, in which case this place just got a lot more valuable to be. Did it not? Just in the last 2 weeks, this boardroom got 100 times more valuable. Now, it's my job within the grand scheme of my game to create the rules and the ability to communicate what we're now doing in here in a way in my marketing that makes people go, holy, that's really smart. And that's the guy I need to be around. That's my next iteration, because I really don't want to, like, selling it the way I sold it 3 weeks ago. And even the version that you bought, I'm like, you're welcome for leveling up instantly. But also, like, you're also, like, mid-transition period here. And I'm just like, whatever, let's see what happens. And because I know, like, that's my next iteration. Like, how do I communicate this publicly in a way that people get it? So the two components that I believe that matter most on this is everybody becomes a media company immediately. What does that mean? Fundamentally, here's what it means. The more stuff you got out there for people to watch, read, or listen to, or use, that is yours, that allows them to build trust with you, the better off you'll be, because you're building, in so many words, your, quote, personal brand. I'm not a huge fan of that term, but y'all know what I mean. It's people just resonating with you. I don't have a personal brand. Y'all just resonate with me. I don't know what other label to put on it, so my personal brand, whatever. You got to be visible, and you got to have the more that you have out there, the better. You guys with me on that? That's what it's, so in your own way, and I'll do my best along the way to assist in this process as I do this for me. Some of the boundaries and rules that I've created for myself based on how I want to live. I don't want to spend $50,000 on a Hormozy-sized media team. I want to be able to, at least as a personal challenge to myself, see how, I was going to say, far I can take this model. And I think the better I get it, the AI side of this, the farther I'll be able to take it basically solo as a personal challenge to myself. So I'll be sharing that with you. Like, the easy answer is go hire a media team like Ozzy. How's that working out for all of you that have hired video people and shit? No offense, Smith. But that's the idea. So those are the boundaries that I'm like, well, I'm going to not do calls and I'm not going to hire a fuckload of people. So within those boundaries, how do I still have enough content distribution that accomplishes this not only today, but it compounds on itself for tomorrow, so that the right people get to know and trust me no matter what I'm selling. They're buying me as the human element that they want to validate or guide along the way. That's number one, is the media element. You guys, does that make sense to you guys? So as I build mine out, like Anthony, you're one of the few people that I know who actually has a team that doesn't suck. That speaks volumes of you and your abilities and skill sets, and mad props, dog. Like I don't come equipped with that. It's also painful for me to attempt learning that. And with the tools and skills that I have, it appears there's enough evidence that points to I don't need to learn that or do that. But I'll let you know when that changes, but just as a frame of, as I'm building and sharing stuff, I'm building it and sharing it in a way to where I don't need to do $100 million in a day or whatever. I want $2 million a year profit. I want to do that solo, and I want to do it in the way that I want to do it, and I want to have AI do everything else as a big general blanket statement. So just understand what I create is going to be under those rules. The rules and skills and all that shit that gets rolled out to you is going to be under that frame. You're never probably going to hear me say, aside from one-off things like this, go hire a full-time XYZ. Let's only hire a full-time XYZ if we're absolutely for sure it's necessary to do the thing. And B, there's no way AI can do it. That's my personal criteria at the moment. So far, we're trending. Has its own series of challenges associated with that, but just letting you know those are some of the boundaries I've put on myself so that I don't then create another business model that I end up hating, okay? Number two, this is really simple, is just AI, period, in general. So we're primarily a media company that's driven and fulfilled by AI. And when I say AI, I don't mean the conversations with ChatGPT. I mean, we're literally training an agentic clone of ourselves that has context on everything at all the time, and it constantly gets smarter and yada yada. If we have the media, this allows us to create trust and position ourselves properly in the market. The more of this we have, the better. So what system? I don't know. The more of it, the better. If you have 0 right now, make a video. That's step one. Don't try to build the whole just make a video, right? 0 to 1, great. And then how do I stay on top of AI advancements and shit? And how am I optimizing my model and everything that I do in both sales, marketing, and delivery operations, you name it? And how do I leverage these AI tools? And also, and arguably more importantly, improving my skill set as it relates to being a commander of AI. I'm going to do my best to assist in both of these areas. Building the skill set and those parameters and shit that you can now at least install helps in both of those areas. I just believe these are the two things that matter. People aren't going to stop consuming content. They're going to be on platforms. That's where they go. If I'm not there, that's a bad thing. I got to be there, right? So you see my logic of I can't get away from this. So if you're not doing this, nothing else matters because you won't have anybody that comes to you. Even if you cloned all the best information, nobody will want to buy it from you because they don't know and trust you. They're just going to be skeptical of your source. So the context created by this is what makes the content created, managed, and delivered by this valuable. Make sense? So we're a media company primarily. Secondarily, these two things are the things that are just, they need to constantly get better and forever. So that's, as I see it, like the third generation of the online business model. I don't see how it makes any sense to be like, you know what, let's hold off on that and stay back here. That just feels so stupid to me, knowing that what was created in that first instance of when I created that first document for Joey in 3 minutes, what would have normally taken, even with this, days of back and forth. I'm like, I can't ethically do this anymore when I know this is here. So it's my responsibility to make that to where it produces the result. All you have to do is ask. This is part of my job, is to make the guardrails so that it'll be like, no, it'll tell you what I'm telling you, and it'll also execute on what I just said without having a long back and forth and trying to convince you of something. It'll be like, no, you don't want to do this, you want to do that, and I've already done it for you. I got you.
And it's keeping this stored in like a sample. Maybe it doesn't.
So so it creates these little web app spaces basically that are all basically hosted inside. So I asked it how it was built. Long story short, every new Victor instance that gets created basically on a server, your own sandbox Linux environment gets created. It's a bunch of nerdy shit of saying you have your own folder architecture that gets referenced. That's all this is. It's a folder architecture that gets referenced with a particular set of rules. So every time you create one of this was completely coded by, I just said what I wanted and it built it, and then I say what I want edited to it and it builds it. That's stored on this environment in a folder in an HTML file. And I have mine, just to be clear, and I think this is a rule that's already on yours, and it should be. It automatically backs up all of your shit once a week to a Google Drive file, so that in case Victor goes down or whatever in some other AI platform, I have a whole bunch of automations and scheduled shit and reminders. I'm like, if I build my business on top of you and you go away, I'm fucked. That's not okay. I need you to build a backup environment, like simultaneously. Every time you make an update, the backup gets updated, and then you push that update at least once a week to a backup file that I could easily just drag and drop into another agentic AI, and it would automatically go to work and duplicate you without me giving it any further instructions or understanding any code or any of that shit. I just want to drag and drop a file.
Is that built into the skill pack?
Should be. You can ask it, and if it's not, this is where the feedback of, as you get feedback and as you use your Victor instance, and just like you said with the install, it's a blank file, fine. Anytime you post in Circle or use this submit feedback form right here, my Victor ingests it, creates the solution for it, deploys the solution for it, puts it in the next skill pack update that gets updated every 24 hours. So you're going to help me build this skill pack by giving me that feedback. So it's a lot easier to have it just scrape those two sources than to message me on Instagram or some shit. And then I have to copy paste that message, give my Victor context, and that's stupid. So the more that you just give me, here's what my Victor said, and any other context of I was trying to do this and then this happened, post it in Circle, my Victor identifies it and solves it and then deploys it on the next run automatically. How did I know to do that? Well, it's because I don't want to be the middleman, so I just told it I don't want to be the middleman. Justin, you had your...
Yeah, just thinking about like the transition from 1 to 3 or 1.5 to 3.
Yeah.
Are you still planning on like Circle being like...
I don't know. Haven't gotten that far yet. I think so. There needs to be a place for these things. Correct. So does that mean I need to use a third-party platform that has curriculum on it too? I don't know yet. I haven't gotten that far. Hypothetically, I could easily, so now we're just, I mean, I can hypothesize and take you through my thought process if you guys want to hear that. It's not complete at the moment. Would you like, because there's benefits and drawbacks, as we know, to everything. So hypothetically, this way of thinking would tell me that I should just create a portal that's my own, has a community, has all my shit on it, has all this shit on it. It would have your Teddy on it. It would have, I have it, there's a V1 of it, but I want to refine it because I'm not even sure how the charge clearing process, that's on my list of things. So it's like, theoretically, you would have your own portal with all that shit in it, and it all talks to each other and visualizes it and makes it all cool and fancy and super awesome, and that's what you get when you sign up for the Bulletproof Boardroom. That's cool, except for the fact that, if I'm being honest, like it's a balance between what's the intellectual property and what makes my offer, quote, sticky versus what you actually want. So when we build on somebody else's environment, it's limited. I've never liked that experience. It's usually tailored to people who don't know what they're doing and don't really have any desire to figure out what they're doing. They just want to plug and play, done for you, go high level, that already has all the automations built out for you and all of that angle. How many of you guys have gotten some sort of a white label, something like that was supposed to be awesome out of the box, and all you had to do was plug and play and it blew, right? It always blows. And the people who made it to where they thought it was good, like they tried. The problem is, no matter how similar the business is, copying and pasting, or you having your data tracking system in my environment, as an example. It sounds good for me. I wouldn't want that, though. So do I build something that's sticky that sounds good for me, or do I build it to where you're like, thank you, motherfucker. Finally, I appreciate somebody actually thought about me, not just about how they could get me to be a go high-level affiliate, as an example, get my affiliate commission for the rest of my life when I use their janky patchwork piece of shit GHL white label thing. So if I make it all in this portal, it's marketable, it's a shiny object. Practically, you want your own thing that's yours. I want the ability to have transparency to it. I want the ability to help you build and enforce the boundaries and the rules around yours. And maybe that's a stupid thought process. Again, this is more of it's a combination of ethics, morals, and practical business stuff that actually creates profit, stickiness, recurring, yada. I might be a little Pollyanna-ish, but my hope is that all becomes so commoditized because you'll be able to just, very soon, you'll be able to like, this guy's portal, I'm going to code my own portal. Why do I need to subscribe to your shitty portal? This is mine. Like with one prompt, you can be like, here's this website, make it mine, reverse engineer what it does and do it for me so I can unsubscribe to this overpriced piece of shit mastermind. That's everybody's default. And over a long enough time frame, that will be so, most people don't know you can do that right now. Pretty quick, everybody will know you can do that. So why would I build that? That's why I haven't gone full bore. I just built this web portal because y'all are going to ask, what are those trained on? What are the rules? What are the stuff? And I'm like, I could either give you a big, ugly Google document, or I could give you an interactive web portal that's automatically updated with everything I add to the motherfucker. And I'm saving you tons of time in terms of training your own Victor by just a one-click install that constantly stays updated. That's at least my first blush at a thing that's helpful for you, that doesn't make you beholden to me, but it does make the stickiness of being in this room more, because as soon as you unsubscribe, sure, will you have the most recent version that you'll be able to take home and cherish forever? Sure. Will you get my updates tomorrow? Nope. Will you get them the next day? Nope. So you won't get to benefit from the one-click passive improvement of everything that I do. So that's my like V1 of making this stickier and simultaneously making it to where it's not some like obvious, stupid, ghetto-rigged thing that makes you feel dumb and beholden to being in this room. You guys following my logic here, right? So it's like I think another, to add to your Drexel, your question of how do I think with this? We need to the best of your ability, you got to follow, here's how I'm thinking about this, is I have to follow all of these thought trains as far into the future as I can and consider the most likely outcomes. And as part of that, I even asked Victor, I'm like, what is the probability that this happens and why? And what are all the possible outcomes here and why? Which one is most likely to happen and why? Let's build, as Wayne Gretzky, one of the greatest hockey players to ever live, when asked, what is it that makes you so great? He says, everybody else is skating to where the puck is. I skate to where the puck's gonna be. So I'm trying to think, all right, if I build this, what will make this obsolete? And so I start shooting holes in my ideas, and I'm trying to only build stuff that will fundamentally hold up, like this skill pack. It constantly gets updated, so I'm not beholden to like Slack as a platform and Victor as the vehicle. I do now have a knowledge base and a brain and rules and automations and instructions that are being updated every single day that are platform agnostic. That allows me to where even if all this shit shuts down, assuming there's going to be AI and there's going to be agents, I don't want to have to retrain it. So I'm setting future John up for success by having that with drag and drop is the only instruction that gets updated every day. So I don't have to ask it to update it or back it up. It just happens. So this is back to answering the circle question. I think what's going to happen is, and I don't have a crystal ball, but things are going to get with more agentic function. I think Circle and other platforms are going to add that because they're all going to realize what Victor as a company has realized, that you can build basically everything on the top of either Anthropic, Claude, or OpenAI, or Gemini, and that's all these softwares are doing. So everything like Brian went, his little thumbnail AI designer thing, when you shared that, I copy pasted that link, sent it to my Victor, and I'm like, how is this built? And can you already do this? And if not, what do you need to build in order to do this natively so that we can just add this as a skill to our client skill pack so that Brian doesn't need to subscribe to that shit? He can just do it within Victor, and it'll be better because it has more context all the time. The outputs will be better, and he gets to at least save and maybe not credit usage cost, but at least it's all in one spot, and everything that he does and feedback that he gives on the thumbnails makes it all better moving forward permanently instead of having it haphazardly spread across all these different softwares. So all the AI softwares that you're currently subscribed to, myself included, all they are a front end, meaning meaning the thing you see online, that is powered by a main LLM, Claude, Anthropic, Gemini, paired with a specific video generator thing that has basically just a few gated prompts, and that's what you're subscribing to. That's all you're subscribing to. So that's going to become obsolete as agents get smarter. Everybody who's selling an AI software right now, in my estimation, that does that stuff, especially if you default your guy to finding workarounds and reverse engineering everything, it's all built with the underlying same model. So everybody who's, I'm going to build my AI SaaS, you better build and sell it quick, bro, because everybody's going to have an agent that does that shit for free. And again, it goes back to why would I get your agent is because you know what you've trained it on. And I would like all other things being equal, you'd probably get the thumbnail designer software that was specifically designed and augmented by Mr. Beast and Alex Hormozy versus the one that's still connected to all the same shit, but there's no real human behind it. It just says it does the thing. So in Breakthrough how many of you guys read Breakthrough Advertising? You're familiar with the book at least? Okay, well, holy shit. Good news is your guy has the breakthrough advertising skill. It's a $500 book. Ask it anything about breakthrough advertising, Eugene Schwartz. It's in there. Sorry, Eugene, I want to tell you. But there's levels of market awareness. So when something's brand new, all you got to do is say, here's what it is. And if it's a new thing, they don't need any context. They'll just buy it based on the perceived functionality of the thing. So if they've never seen an AI thumbnail generator that works, all you got to say is, this is an AI thumbnail generator that works. But once there's 1,000 AI thumbnail generators that all say they work, now whose do I want? Well, then it comes back to the human and the personal brand that created the motherfucker. You see? That's the only thing that can't be commoditized from my perspective. I've tried to hit this from all different angles. That's the only thing I keep coming back to. And that's why what we've talked about so far is so important. So going back to the circle question, I think every single individual software is in trouble, period. You can literally build a MyFitnessPal clone that's better than MyFitnessPal in 10 minutes. That's a problem. Right now, people are not aware of that, but they're not going to get less aware over time, right? So they're going to get more or less aware. More. Okay. What does it look like when now? Everybody's aware. No, everybody unsubscribes from everything everywhere. But what do they not unsubscribe to? Well, they're not going to not communicate or connect with humans. Does that mean they need to be subscribed to humans? No. But that becomes the only scarce resource available left. And so when I say scarce, I mean scarce and valuable. Because the only thing that makes the information valuable is the context with which that information is framed, deployed, implemented, and so on. And that's why the wisdom of knowing what to deploy, when to deploy it, how to think through it, how to apply what knowledge, what to apply and when and not to, all becomes the new rare skill set. And that's been my intention with this boardroom since day one. That's why I have the knowledge is knowing tomato is a fruit thing, right? It's you gotta know what to do and what not to do and when. Because I could go off and build this beautiful portal, have y'all log into it, y'all would think I'm a genius. Until you had the bright idea of going, wait a minute, why don't I just build my own? Why do I have to subscribe to your shitty one? Then I'm fucked. Now I spent all this time and energy and money and resources thinking I was smart, executing on something that very temporarily was smart, but isn't going to withstand where the puck is going, so to speak. It's tough to know where the puck is going. That's why I just default to, well, what's probably for sure not going to change? Humans, human, and people getting more aware that they can just say something and it's done and built for them. And what's also another variable in that is how smart the models get, which means you need less knowledge and wisdom or whatever to get a same or better output with less effort. So that means you can go all the way down to the bottom level of like full retard, and they will be able to get outputs of a potential genius. The shit test, and the only shit test then becomes, is if you give the retarded guy and somebody who, actually knows what they're doing and talking about in the same room, and have a group of, let's say you guys, evaluating, well, who do you want to spend time with? It's going to become real obvious who has no idea what they're doing, who just copy and pasted and regurgitated shit and tried to pass it off as they know what they're doing, and the people who actually know what they're doing. Again, going back to the only thing that becomes valuable is the human element, which is why I'm trying to teach you how to think with this stuff. because that'll make you more valuable as a person to be around as everything else just continues to get, it's a race to the bottom. The judgment of the human is what matters, and that becomes what you're subscribing to, right? So yes, the agentic side, it's all really cool, but within the next year, it's going to be way better, and you'll be able to, this will be second nature in terms of your thought process. But what does not change, again, is the judgment layer when you're like, I really need to run this by somebody, right? Otherwise, everybody literally is off in their own pod and humans completely disconnect from each other, which literally goes against the biology that is all hard-coded into our DNA. So I'm betting that despite potential efforts to modify our DNA and all of the conspiracy theory bullshit that may or may not be occurring on this planet and the attempt to dumb down society and all of this shit, what is not going to change is the underlying animal desires and instincts and impulses that run human beings. The only thing that will begin to change that, where's the puck going on generation 12, is when we're all going to be faced with the quandary, which is worth an interesting discussion for the AI little roundtable thing. We're all going to be faced with the decision as to whether or not we want to get the chip installed in our heads pretty quick here. Within the next 10 years, my bet is we're all going to have to sit there and go, well, if we don't have it installed, we have to be ready to go to the actual Stone Ages because we're not going to be able to use any technology. That's my bet. Either it's going to be that aggressive or it's going to be such a competitive advantage, at least initially, to have this motherfucker installed, that if you don't, you're going to just get smoked out of whatever marketplace you're in to the people who opted to get this fucker installed. Temporarily, that looks smarter to get it installed. On a long enough timeline, it becomes like, how do you get mass adoption? It has to look really good initially, and it looks really good until it doesn't. We're all going to be faced with that, and it's going to be really interesting dichotomy that we're all going to have to deal with. The good news is there's still fuckers thinking that this is the best way to go. So I think we're relatively early in this shift, but it is accelerating, and I'm not dumb enough or myopic enough or short thinking enough to think that's not going to happen, because it's already happening, just in small use cases. But the intention of the folks that run this joint, as far as I'm aware, not only from what I've seen and understand, but what seems to be based on the behavior of the folks that run this joint. When I say that, the small group of people that basically make all the big decisions on this planet that we basically have to live with the consequences of, their intention is just more control, and it's going to be framed as a benefit, but that's never worked out in history. That's why communism doesn't work. That's a whole separate conversation, but that's basically the big initiative right now. It's not a conspiracy theory. You're watching it happen. And so I say that to say we can still win in this environment. We just have to think differently to do it. And as long as we're ahead of the curve, and the shining light here, in my opinion, is, or at least the belief that helps me sleep at night, is every time there's been a huge mass shitstorm in history, there's always been people who have prospered and balled hard during that time. In the Great Depression, lots of millionaires created, lots of opportunity. Many people got fucked hard. So how do we make sure that we're on the right side of that is like the primary question, is shit's gonna get fucked. How do I make sure at each step of the way that I'm doing at least everything I can? I still might get fucked, but at least doing everything that I can to make sure I'm on the right side of that. I think there's going to be a mass, like all the people that are here, and then I could create an AI clone that people can talk to and a chatbot. Doesn't that seem so stupid and Stone Age and archaic, knowing what we've just talked about this morning? Doesn't that seem like the most ridiculous model? So the cool thing is, I think, because I don't see anyone in this industry running an AI, an agent model right now. I might be wrong. Does anybody else see that's running that one? I don't. It's cool, but just don't get fooled into thinking that's the end all be all. The end all be all is like in 20 years, assuming we all get the goddamn chip installed. I don't know. It's like an instant download of somebody else's shit and rules or whatever that you've subscribed to. But at that point, I don't know. But that's like as far as I can see at the moment, until literally you're not a human robot combo. You're just like,
I'm anti-chip.
You're anti-chip? Yeah. It's an interesting thought process, because the ramifications of being anti-chip are going to be brutal. The ramifications of being chip are going to be cool until they're brutal. Brian has now come up with exactly the punchline.
Yeah, shirts, bro.
So the idea here is, in my world, is I'm trying to, again, that's why we have to know what our outcome is, what's our goal, what's the vision, what's the accumulation number. As long as there's financial markets, I'm betting up that there will be, as long as they're increasing in value, because the motherfuckers, that as diabolical as they may or may not be, I don't know, they own stake in these things and they want them to go up. If I also own stake in those things, they will go up. This is why the rich get richer, poor get poorer. So the more that we can capitalize and profit on this now, the more we can feed those things so that regardless of what happens, we are going to at least have the resources to navigate that. How fast we do that depends on how much content we can create to build trust with volume of the right people fast enough and use AI to deliver that and assist in the business operations at scale to do that faster. Those are the two mechanisms that I see that are the only mechanisms that are like top of mind. We got to be a media company and we got to master AI with the outcome of as much profit as possible while still making it at least as sustainable as we can over the next 5 to 10 years, full well knowing we got to be on the cutting edge of this shit, which is why this is obviously my main focus at the moment for obvious reasons. I think my intention for this boardroom then is this becomes your main focus too. And we use the boardroom as a hive mind to train the boardroom skill brain, whatever that ends up being called, that all of us all the time are contributing to the best of our ability and getting the updates installed, at least in our initial agentic model named Victor for now, so that we're as far ahead as we possibly can be at all times until further notice. And that becomes a pretty valuable place to be because nobody else in this industry, as far as I know, is doing that. And it seems to be the smartest thing that can be done from my perspective. Does my logic make sense with you guys?
Yeah.
So that's something that we can discuss after lunch here. I think it is lunchtime. Anything anybody would want to say or ask real quick before we end this little session? Yeah. Was that useful for you guys?
Yeah.
All right, let me get like one or two big takeaways before we break for lunch. Yeah, Jordan.
I like the way that you're thinking ahead on how everyone's going to rebuild anything that you do build. So might as well say, hey, build it so that it's theirs, but then work around like how are we going to get that data and that feedback loop another way, rather than just doing what makes sense right now.
Yeah.
Going where the puck's going. I like that.
Cool. Who else? Yeah.
I would say I saw the CEO of Anthropic mention that by 2030, a bunch of jobs will be replaced and so forth. Businesses will go out of business, right? And he said that's not going to be even more accelerated, right? He thought it was going to be in the next 4 years. Now it's going to be in the next 1 or 2 years.
Yep.
And so then I think about us as coaches, we're like replaceable with AI. And so I'm like really glad that you're talking about this because it's exactly what I felt like, man, we have to future-proof our businesses.
Yeah, I would say, so to be very clear, what's not replaceable is you as the vehicle, as the vessel. So that's what I wanted you to take away from that. At least in my, like, that's either I'm like, well, yeah, we're all fucked. Or I look for is there something? And the answer is yes. So coaches aren't replaceable. The knowledge is commoditized, but you as the vehicle can literally not be replaced.
Yeah.
And so the only thing then that makes that a higher probability of you not being replaced is becoming a media company and making it to where there's so many people that know and trust you and vibe with you as the vehicle that it doesn't matter what happens. It's valuable for them to pay you to be around you.
Yeah. One other thing I'd like to share with the group, because I think it's powerful, is a Google exec mentioned this as well, that CEOs right now, they're thinking about, oh man, AI is so great, it's going to replace my team so that way I can run a more profitable business, right? But the next step is that the CEO will be replaced as well.
Yeah.
And so again, it's like this tool is so powerful for us to be able to run these one-person companies.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the opportunity we have.
Another thought on that, and then I will shut up and we'll eat lunch. But this is why I wanted to have this conversation. That's a really good point. So, okay, let's assume for a second that everybody's replaceable and CEOs get replaced and blah, 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 blah. Okay, in order to control humans, you need to have them doing stuff. And the best way to have them do stuff and gather data is by having them use platforms, which is why they engineer them to be addictive, to have eyeballs on them at all times. But how does Facebook, Meta, Google, how do they make money? Ads. Well, guess what? If everybody's replaced and there's no jobs, who is there to advertise and advertise to? Nobody. So guess what happens to the platform? Bye-bye. So guess what? They're incentivized to keep enough people going so that they can keep going. So that's a thing that I don't believe will change. I mean, unless I'm sure there's something I'm not considering. There always is. But that's how I'm seeing that right now is sure, you could replace that, but like, how do they make money? What do they want? Back to some of the advice that people have given regarding content. So what does the platform want? Optimize for that. Well, what the platform wants is keep eyeballs on. Not for the sake of keeping eyeballs on. They want eyeballs so they can show them ads. That's why they want eyeballs. So the better we are at media, creating those ads ourselves and keeping ourselves in front of those who are going to be fraught with problems, opportunity for us if we know how to solve them at scale, and we're a vessel that is known and trusted because of our media prowess, I believe at least that's the best next iteration. But literally, if AI replaced everything, then all you'd have is AI creating platforms for other AI to use, to show ads to, and now you have an economy that's AI producer, AI consumer with unlimited supply and unlimited demand. That is not an economy. It all goes to infinity, which means it all goes to zero, which means there's an opportunity in there somewhere as long as there's humans transacting, and you need humans on these platforms to monetize the platforms. AI can't replace everything. It can't. Otherwise, they'll cannibalize and ruin their own shit. The only dichotomy that then leads into is humans versus machines, and you have a Terminator type of a situation, which is very real, it's a very real possibility. But that's not for this discussion. Let's have some tacos.